What is going on, traders? Going to do a little deep dive kind of market structure recap going into the week of February 22nd. Last week, tariffs kind of got shut down by the Supreme Court. Trump's response to that was a 10% global tariff, and now he's saying a 15% global tariff. So we will see if that drives anything. That maybe that initial, we're seeing a good 250 point rejection off the Globex Open up here at 25,034. Something I'm paying attention to, there is quite a bit of a new week opening gap here. A good 55 points of a new week opening gap. If we get down into a little lower time frame, let's get those hourly blocks off the chart here real quick just so we can see. Pretty immediate rejection out of this area. These are the 5-minute candles here. So we saw this drop, heading for that liquidity there. We did sweep that liquidity, and then moving further down into 24,879, taking care of that as well. Next stop, 24,679. If it continues to go down there, you can see we do have some fair value gaps down here that could find some buyers front running these stops down here at the bottom from getting long on Friday morning. Regardless, some things to pay attention to going into Monday's open. If we back out a little bit, go look at a higher time frame from a weekly structure. These green lines, red lines are weekly highs and lows over the last month. Really, this goes all the way back into January. As you can see, we've got a nice lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high going throughout the entire month of February. Now, on the bullish argument, and I would say there is for sure a bullish argument here, just because charts go up and to the right, we are starting to see some support here. So I would be curious to see if price can get down into this 24.6 area. If it does melt off of that area, I do easily think we'll see the beginning of February lows that were set on the 5th, where there's no real reason why we wouldn't be trading in that 24,200s area again. Now, kind of looking at the last week's price action, not the prettiest by any means at all. We have established, argumentatively a higher low. On the other side of that, we're also looking at a double top. So very possible that we do melt back out of this area. I wouldn't be super interested in anything until we're, finding where the market's going to want to go. It is Sunday night. Looking over at Bookmap. The last hour's just been ugly. We zoom out a bit. You can see that initial dump. We are well away from VWAP. VWAP's up at 24,890, so we're 70 points away from VWAP on there. Kind of bouncing between some of my charts here. So this is a little higher time frame chart. It's got a lot of noise, so bear with me here. I pay a lot of attention to my previous day lows and previous day highs. Main area I'm focusing on here is going to be this kind of 1 hour, sell side imbalance where I'm marking it off of the Friday closes low candle, just because there is such a large new week opening gap there. So if we did see a clean rejection out of 25,017, I would be very, very interested in a short position off of that area. Getting down into some demand where Friday's kind of pick up and run came from. I've got that marked out on my chart as well. That's just that wick from the 7 a.m. candle on Friday. And then getting into Tuesday would really be the next wick of support that I'd be looking at. There is a 4-hour buy side inefficiency here that has been completely reclaimed. So in reality, that doesn't need to be there anymore. We did reject this initial, early February, first week of February, new week opening gap. So came above it, retested it. You could have caught a long out of that area for plenty of intraday points by all means. and then we just absolutely wrecked through. I mean, I don't think there's a major argumentative case for bulls going on, just higher time frame wise. However, I am more of a initial balance and 15-minute opening range, 5-minute opening range trader. So those are going to be things that I'm paying attention to next week. And then Monday we do have some news, so we'll see what happens. I believe that is at 6:30. Let's take a look here. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then going into next week, we are going to be at 6:30, Chicago Fed. Factory orders are at 8 a.m. my time, so that's going to be 10 a.m. New York session time, where, it's 6:30, a little bit of news. 8 o'clock is going to be your main news. And then Wednesday, we do have some earnings from NVIDIA. I believe those are going to be post-market. So let's dive in real quick here and see. Wow, there's a lot of pre-market noise in here. They are Wednesday, NVIDIA earnings. I'm not going to scroll all the way through this because that's a waste of everybody's time. So these are some areas I'm paying attention to here. I think that there's a very good argument off the double top here. If we carry this double top over, you could argue this is just basic resistance here. So we came up, rejected from this area, got above it, caught some support. Keep in mind, this is that area that's the new week opening gap that we're talking about. Couldn't find enough buyers up here. Came down, kind of working our way out, right? Moves in waves, so just got to catch them as they come. We are establishing some higher lows on the weekly argument where, we had that initial kind of dump, and then now we're starting to catch a little bit of support there. So I think the argument can definitely be made on this trend line down here at the bottom, where this is going to be something that I will be very interested in seeing what happens at this level. Not necessarily taking a trade here, but just kind of seeing where price is going to be, where when you get down into that kind of 15-minute chart, you've got, really good demand right here, just based off of the red candle before that good pump that we saw. And my Fibonacci people, you could make the argument of a Fibonacci level up there as well, really carry it all the way to there, just because that's the high off of there, where that 78.6 kind of optimum entry area is right at the top of that 15-minute fair value gap. It's also kind of right at that trend line, so depending on if price gets down into that area, I'll be curious to see how it reacts. Obviously, none of this matters. The market's going to do whatever the market wants to do, and that's why we use tools like Bookmap that allows us to kind of see a bit deeper into the market and just get a better idea of who's in control. This first standard deviation overnight has been very appealing for both sides of the market. You can see we had that initial kind of dump. I'm on the Trader Map Lite. So if we just go back over to regular NQ here and look at it this way, this doesn't have a VWAP on it. I don't trade on this chart. I just need it up to have my light up, which will get rid of my algos. Point of control has moved its way down and down and down and down. VWAP is very low. We are under VWAP. My rule on that is simply short entries under VWAP, long entries over VWAP, depending on what's going on and what buyers and sellers are looking at. I do use the market pulse as well. This has been in the red pretty much all night that I've watched. I was looking at a trade earlier out of the 860s. It was this one here that I don't trade the Globex session. Not going to sit here and act like I do. Hindsight's always 20/20, so roast me in the comments for it. But as I was watching this price action, I did kind of mentally take this trade of that 24,860 entry and then just a stop above this resting liquidity here at 865. So it would have been a very, very light risk trade. I do trade the mini contracts. I trade one mini contract, and then I trade with Apex Trader Funding, and I trade the 50K accounts with them. They're just a little easier to manage, better risk to reward in my opinion. So we saw this, this is a sweeps indicator. So you get this initial sweep, my guy Rips would say pitch and catch down here, buying that dip and riding it back up to the top. You could have caught a good, 45 to 60, good 15-point rotation. That's $300 in the pocket. Not a bad scalp for a Globex session. I was more interested in the drop of point of control here, where when that sweep happened and it fell back down, point of control kind of followed. And when we got back up here, if we get into like a very, very minute area, you can see what exactly happened at point of control. This is something I was watching closely, pretty zoomed in at this level. So I was in that kind of 30-second window frame where I wouldn't be surprised if I paid for the icebergs indicator that there's an iceberg here, just based on the way price was reacting. So price came up, rejected point of control. Buyers are stuffing it. I mean, this is just 2, 2, 2. This is clearly an algorithm trying to push this up. Just if we get really, really zoomed in here to like a microsecond level, these are points away, you can see this is very clearly an algo. So that initial algo pops in at 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. These are market orders hitting the tape. So that is a very high probability of an algo stepping in there. And you can see it kind of continues. Now, what we don't know is this a short position trying to get out here at point of control? And they've ridden this, decent wave of the Globex session all the way down, and they just want to get out at point of control. I was more interested in it because we see a bit of a liquidity sweep here at just a super minute level where the sweep comes up, we come back down, we get back up into point of control, we get the liquidity sweep, we see a lot of stuff going on here, and then these bubbles kind of switch from green to red, right? Where there are still plenty of green. I don't filter my volume dots out by anything. They're set to 1. So this is every single trade that's hit the tape, to my understanding of Bookmap, where this comes up, it comes up, it comes up. Some could argue here a head and shoulders because that's 1, 2, and 3 pumps. And then you start seeing some decent volume step in on the sell side. A little bit of an algo stepping in here. Things start to push down. There was some resting liquidity down at 830. That was the initial trade idea in my head. That was here. It was pulled from the tape so that dark orange spot turns blue. So it goes from a bid of 3. This says 6. It was probably more. It goes down to nothing. And then as we come back under this standard deviation line of VWAP, you see us pull back up and then reject back down again. It happens a third time, and then that's whenever that 830 plays. So it comes down, bounces back up, and then it takes that resting liquidity at 830. So looking in on the actual candlestick chart of this trade, so this trade would have been at 808, that rejection off point of control. That's going to be this window here that we're paying attention to. So different arguments to be made here. I would make the argument of accumulation, manipulation, and then distribution. Just between reading the tape and what price action was doing, we are in a much higher downtrend. I mean, the market just absolutely melted from the moment that it opened. So previous consolidation area would be, this area here. So the idea of a break and retest is definitely appetizing, where price action consolidates, it breaks out, we then see the secondary accumulation, the market then manipulates back into that high volume area and distributes itself. That's why point of control was up here, was this consolidation area before. So as it pulled back in, you can see these candles, you get this green doji, and then really that run on liquidity right there, just that little kind of whack was enough that, mentally I'm like, this is going to kind of melt off. As we started coming down, 830 would have really been that target for me. And I didn't take this trade. It's just a trade idea that I was watching that, worked out in my favor. So I'm sharing it. If it would have been a losing trade, I probably wouldn't be talking about it. I'm not going to lie to you. But either way, going into this week, I think it's very, very possible to see the market just to kind of continue this melt off that we've been seeing on the higher time frame, where we are in a massive range, to be brutally transparent, where you're all the way from 24,100s up to the 26,300s, and the market's just trying to decide really where it wants to go. This week could be the week that decides for us to move higher, for us to move lower. There's really no way to know until earnings come out, and then based on our red folder news that'll be hitting this week as well, PMI, factory orders, so on and so forth. I did post a short kind of talking more on the earnings side and the economic data side. So if you want to see that, go take a look at that. And then, depending on what happens tomorrow, we'll do another recap video here, look at what trades I took tomorrow, and then, see really kind of what plans out down at this area here. But going into this week, definitely pay attention at this 24.4, 24.5 area. That's a 60-minute demand area. And then, is it a 15-minute demand area? Yes, that's the 15-minute. I have the other one marked out here. So this is our, 60-minute wick from Friday's low. So, pay a lot of attention down here in this area. It's very possible coming into the morning that we're hanging out down here, and with the new week opening gaps so far away, we could just run and squeeze these shorts straight out of the market very, very easily. So be conscious of that. And then if we do make our way under Friday's low, then I think the argument for, that lower 24.4 area is in play as well. But if you have any questions, want me to dive into anything specific, leave me a comment, like the video, subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know. Follow me on the Instagram, Banshee Capital, and then Twitter as well. It's going to be the same, or X, my bad, Banshee Capital as well. But we'll see you in the next one. Thanks again. Like, follow, subscribe, do your thing, and don't be an idiot. Use a stop loss, especially coming into this week. There's going to be a lot of data coming out very quickly. Don't be like me, getting slammed by a Trump tweet in the middle of the day. So protect your capital, protect your funds. And have a profitable week. I'm gone.